come to mind?
So I think we were thinking about the kind of, working against the entitlement piece and working toward the sort of participatory piece. And I think the one thing we tried so far is having him set the table and be like a really part of each end of the experience, not just the eating part. And I think that's for him, ownership is actually really, really is a natural inclination. He likes to have a job. He likes to have that sort of sense of ownership. So I think for us, that's the counterpoint to the entitlement a little bit.
Mm-hmm. It's a great counterpoint to entitlement. It's a great counterpoint to entitlement. And I can tell you, a child comes into the world with an absolutely insatiable desire for competence. That child is trying to figure out, that baby, how do I get my hands so I can see it? How do I get my hands in my mouth? I mean, everything about a child's existence, everything about a human being's existence, but especially a child's existence, is they are absolutely, insatiably obsessed with wanting competence. When we begin to throw roadblocks to their getting competence by doing for them what they should do for themselves, they get angry, they get entitlement. Because we're taking them out of the road they should be on and cultivating that. I mean, a 1-year-old who's walking can pack a spoon to a table and put it on the table, right? And a 1-year-old can take a spoon off the table and be guided to the kitchen to put it away while everyone's putting something away. And they will not be whining. They will be loving the competence, the gaining of the competence. Where we stop is when their process to gaining competence becomes an irritant to us or becomes inconvenient, or we don't have enough time to orient in that direction. So we begin to say, you go sit and watch, Winnie Pooh on television while mommy cooks dinner, right? Because it is just really hard to have a young kid in there while you're trying to cook dinner. Well, diligence. Well, sacrifice. Well, you've got more in you than you think you do. Slow it down, Mom, right? I mean, not every day. Sometimes you just go, can't do it, right? But we say can't do it a lot more than we can't do it. And we get mad when our kids say, I can't, They go, how'd you get to say I can't? Because you say I can't all the time. And it's in their soul too, I can't have you here right now. Right? They go, oh, yes, you can. You won't. Right? And we say that to our children all the time. Don't say I can't. Say, I won't, because you're making a choice, right? And then you're making the choice. Little mirrors, right? So, so the idea that right there, you've got breaking an entitlement spirit. An entitlement spirit comes with somebody who's just played the prince, who's just played, been in the position of the little princess. Well, why wouldn't they act like a brat when they've just been served and do you want this much on your plate, dear? And how about this? No, that's not your favorite? Oh, okay. I'm going, come on, it's food, and some gratefulness and thankfulness. And so if you cultivate, honestly, that you kind of look at that and you say, so what is going to break the back of entitlement? So you started now and said, well, I can run entitlement through a prism and go, what feeds it? What cultivates it? What fertilizes entitlement, right? Being served all the time, being pampered all the time, being taught, they have more choices and more opportunity to express their opinion than anybody else in the house. That 2-year-old does, or that 5-year-old does, or that 6-year-old does, right? Nobody else gets the privileges they get. Well, no wonder they feel entitled. Stop giving them the privileges. Treat them like a regular human being instead of like this coddled princess, that if you want, how many of us, even with young children, you put this baby in the high chair and the baby starts to go, meow, rah, smash, rah, while you're trying to get them to eat, and you're going, just a minute, okay, mommy's coming. I'm going, what did you just teach that child? Snap, do it, Mom. I'll deal with that one when they're 16, right? You just get that little baby out of that high chair and go, don't eat until you're quiet. No, and you can use your wait for mommy over here, right? And you go back, and the moment they're quiet, they go, quiet, people. people can eat in their high chair, and then you go, and you break it, and you come something. But to let them run, things like that. So you work for competence. You work to now give them an alternative, right? So children can help plan meals. Very young children can decide, you get them a list of vegetables that you're all going to like, and they've got pictures, and you're deciding and saying, okay, let's plan the menu with mom, right? And they figure out carrots are for Tuesday and broccoli is for Wednesday, kind of thing, right? And so what else? What else can you break the back of entitlement with? Get them out of themselves and into competence. They'll always choose competence. They'll always choose competence because it's an obsession, a godly obsession.
One thing, when we talked about allowing your children to cook with you, and I have quite an age range.
Yeah.
And they all want to help at the same time. But one in particular, I finally started letting my 5-year-old help. Not that, like you said, I just want to get done.
Yeah.
But he just, Mama, please. So I finally just let him, and he is I'm finding him more peaceful.
Yes.
Because he's happy.
Mhm.
He's like, it's a mess,
Yeah.
But he actually loves to cook.
Yeah.
And so my other two, the little son will kind of hang out and throw stuff places, but the older one doesn't care as much.
Yeah.
So in a way, they're not arguing. So it's kind of calm, the whole environment for dinner, which I thought would be the opposite.
Now here's a hint. It's absolutely, and Susan Sanchez, who couldn't be here today, she sent me she texted me a picture of her kids at the kitchen sink, and we had just had this her kind of private session, and we're talking a little bit about all the food thing and the eating thing and the entitlement, whatever, and it like flipped her whole time around with her kids. I mean, the meal just, I'll let her tell her own story of some things that just shifted, where now it's a delight and everybody's participating and people are not complaining, because they've been a part of it all. Now, one thing you're going to run into now, if you just start running it ahead and you go, okay, so my little one is going to come up here and want to start, and then they're done. It's like, so now, what about diligence? What about faithfulness? What about letting your yes be yes and your no be no, right? So I'm going, character traits. I'm working them in my mind all the time. So I say to that child ahead of time, you want to help mommy? I'd love to have you help mommy, because this meal is for all of us and we should all be working. We'll all get this ready, right? But here's something. Remember, if you start something, you have to finish. Even if you get tired in the middle, you have to finish what you start. Okay? Okay, right? So that means, you might not want to finish at the end, but you will finish, right? Right. Okay, so now only give them a little thing. If they're going to cut a potato or they're going to, be chopping on something, give them a little bit that they can finish in a little bit, proportional to what they can have. Leave them laughing. Get them done. Give them something they can get done and be down with. And then call them back for the next thing, or whatever. Get in your mind the levels of participation that are age appropriate, and stretch your child's attention factor, but set them up. Now, that's what I just said there. That was training. That was saying, this is what you're going to be doing. Let me get you set for success, right? Because I don't want to have to be the one who says, no, you can't get down. You need to finish this, right? No, I don't want it. That's my worst backup, fallback plan. I want to have them prepared for success. So I think ahead, what am I training? Stick to a task until you finish. And then I have, as Charlotte Mason says, I have the option of arranging the atmosphere, the context in which that's going to happen, so that my child can actually accomplish it successfully. So I'm not going to say, here, scrub the floor, for 3 hours kind of thing. Where it might be, here's a square of the tile that's yours. Right? Okay, so I'm training. Okay, so pick another one. What else can you, so breaking entitlement, what else can you do to pull in positive behaviors? Mealtime. I'll read you some more. Get these in your mind, right? good listener, obedience, perseverance. We just dealt with that one a bit. Patience. Perseverance could be there's 5 place settings to put out on the table. Probably tired by 3. The joy has gone out of the task, right? But we have 2 more place settings to do. So you're going to have to figure out how do you guide, how do you work, how do you say, but there's 2 more. Let's keep going, right? And not nagging, but getting that going. Okay, so patience. How about self-control? How about dead to self? How about loving others? Caring, kind-hearted. These are all things you can do right around mealtime. Start with patience. Give me some ideas.
Working with Ellie with we're using little aim timers because she likes to finish eating and then jump down and run off and go do something. So when she's to that point, we have a little 5 or 10 minute aim timer, and we'll put that up so she can watch it. She can physically see when it's coming to the end and when she's almost there. Just kind of trying to encourage her through the way, like you're halfway there, you're almost there, just a little bit longer, because she tends to want to jump out of the chair or fall on the floor, especially if Jocelyn's on the floor too. And so that seems to be helping her listening there longer and longer periods of time.
Yes. Yep. Great tool. Great tool. Because the kids get that reference point. They're not just being told something nebulous, but they have a reference point that they can relate to in time frame. Now, take that behavior. Your goal is to have her be able to sit at the table. So to sit at the table, there has to be a peacefulness. There has to be a changing gears. There has to be something that's going to help her have motivation to stay at the table. Staying at the table doesn't mean just like being locked in a closet. It's not just for the sake of staying at the table. The reason you want her to stay at the table is because loving relationships happen around the table, conversation that brings wisdom happens around the table, joy and laughter happen around the table. All these godly things happen around the table, and you don't want her to miss that. You don't want her to be doing something lesser and less valuable, just lesser on a scale from 1 to 10. You want her to be doing the high and the holy and the valuable, right? So now let's go and say, how else we started that point of saying we're going to make a demand on her, which if you make a demand on a child and it feels like to them that they're gaining competence, you're a team. You're helping a child gain competence, you'll always be on their side. They'll always be on your side. So if they feel like it's your demand and you're trying to gain your competence by making them behave, they're out of it, right? But so you're always going to have to be thinking, what is it my child will desire to be competent about? What would play on that natural urge for competence, right? So you can be thinking about that specifically for Ellie, right? What is it that she likes to do? Now, some children will really rise to the occasion of learning to use the knife and fork properly, right? And even those maybe who might eat with a knife and a fork will help it. But even say in the afternoon, so you're going, okay, so we're working on meal times. I've got this thing, I know my goals, I know why I want her to be able to sit at the table. What things are going to help make that increase, that goal get better, right? So one of those things is appeal to competence. So a child, you can have them in the afternoon and go, let's just set the table, and you are just the right age. You are just so competent. You're just so capable of being able to cut with a knife, because everybody will say to a child, oh, can't touch that knife. So give them a sharp knife. I mean, you're right there. They're not going to run it through their heart, right? I mean, give them a knife. So they go, whoa, sharp knife. You're going, this is very sharp. I know you know how to use this, right? And they go, yes, I do. And so you're appealing to their competence, right? And then you just take clay, like plasticine clay, right? And you're going, okay, let's make some meat, right? They love to play after. So you make your little meat patty and you put it on the plate, right? And she'd so get into this.
Like spend an hour the other day cutting Play-Doh.
Yeah, with the knife, yes. And so now,
thousands of pieces on the table.
Exactly. So now you're going to add a little more to it. You're going to pretend that it's the food, right? So this is how you're going to do it. And the fork goes this way and the whatever. And you just short and sweet, but you're doing that. And you go, you can do that for Daddy tonight, right? We won't tell him. We won't tell him. But you just get there and you just start using your knife, right? And make sure you cook something soft that they can actually cut. Like say, steak, yeah. Like, whining. It isn't working. No, so, they know they're going to cut the soft carrots or they're going to get something. Tell them, what they're going to cut, right? So now she's engaged at the competence level, okay? So ideas like that. What other level can you draw her in now that you're going to have elongating this being able to sit at the table? A couple of the ideas that I just shoot out, just shot out to you guys last time would be applicable to here. The email I sent out.
I'm trying to think about one around conversation and like relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a concrete one in this room, but I think that Will's loves
You mean like asking, like inquiring?
Inquiring, yeah. So kind of I guess showing the value of what the design of breaking bread together looks like as a family, and sort of modeling what that relationship building is. So it's not a mandate that doesn't have an aim behind it. So I don't know if there's like specific questions that we could ask or ways to we can ask things about the day, or like tell Daddy about what we saw at the park today, or talk about the worms and ask questions and things like that. But anything along those lines.
Yeah, drawing and conversation, obviously, if that's you want to cultivate that as something they value.
Because I think then the negative counterpoint we're trying to work on is also like listening and being respectful.
Good listening, yes.
With everyone, so that he's not just sort of talking and not being aware that he's interrupting somebody or things like that.
So one of the ways to do that, and every family is different. I mean, you have to do what you're comfortable with, because you start doing something because you're trying to work on your task and it's not who you are, the kids are just going to go, so weird, here. I mean, it's got to feel good to you, or won't feel good to them. But some families can very easily pull off the thing of, we're all going to say something we're thankful for, or we're all going to name our favorite animal and how would we play with that animal, or you just go. So now the child, so something in the rhythm of just a little bit. Maybe you're talking like you got your little timers, but so in your mind you're thinking, okay, 2 rounds around of something that everybody, so they have to speak, listen, speak, listen, kind of thing. You can do that. So you're cultivating the conversational kind of thing. Having children, now eating together is about eating. It's about food and conversation, all these things. So we've talked about this, with a number of guys. So having children come to the table hungry is really important initially. Later when they're older, that's one thing, because they've got the habits of the conversation, they've got the habits of the staying put, the whatever. But your greatest hook for meal times is a child who wants to eat because they're hungry. I mean, and if you've got a child who really wants to fool around and not engage in the social context of mealtime, have them come to the meal starving. I mean, really hungry. Like the last meal they had was noon and it's now 6 o'clock. And that kid is primed to eat, right? So they're going to be there hungry, and a good portion of what they're going to do is eat while you're talking, while you're whatever. Once they start to the edge gets off the hunger, then you work on the conversational part or whatever. It's your greatest tool for good meal times is to have your children actually come hungry. And so the American thing of the snacking, all the time, causes a lot of havoc at meal times. Because kids, honestly, you're thinking it's 5 o'clock, you should eat, you have to get to bed, at 7, you got to get this in your stomach or whatever. You're not going to have enough. Did you have enough calories or whatever? I mean, that whole thing of continually having the kids like munch through the day, I think, it's my opinion, everybody comes up with their own style, but I look at it and I go, it's a formula for really, really bad meal times. Because the child comes and they go, I could care less if I eat this food. because in another hour I know I'm going to get something else. So I'm not motivated to eat because I get food all day long. Meal times are not about I've had to wait from breakfast to lunch and lunch to dinner, right? It's I'm eating all day, so what's new? I'd rather get down and play with my toys. So your greatest thing is honestly, having the children be hungry.
I feel like they're hungry all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They'll eat no matter when I feed them.
Then if you have a child and they're through a growth spurt and you're just going, ugh, and I'm worried about the blood sugar kind of thing, then that way to do that really is to have times that snack times are like, if you eat at 8 in the morning because of work or whatever, you're going to eat at 8, then set your meal time at 12 or whatever and your dinner time at 5 or 6, whatever you're doing. And then in your own mind, you go, the snack time is going to be at 2 or the 2:30. The snack time is going to be at 10:30 in the morning. But it isn't all the way through there. And they know they're going to have to wait for their snack, right? They're going, Mom, I'm hungry. You go, okay, snack time's 10:30, right? So their body gets on a thing. Their soul settles down. Everything good happens in a child's heart when you can get their body, soul, and spirit in line with habit. Habit of time, habit of action, habit of thought, all of that. Habits in these early years for children is absolutely your mainstay of what you're trying to do. And you do it body, soul, and spirit.
This totally lines up with dog training.
I told you, yeah.
The best 15 minutes to train the dog is put the food down and make him sit and then do the 15 minutes of training. And then
There's so much about child rearing that parallels animal training.
All right,
and I have learned not to bring it up because parents can't handle it.
She doesn't like dogs, but it's totally awesome.
He has a book already. Everything I need to know about parenting, I learned by training my dog.
Hey, training my dog. That's it. Yeah. I don't know about the forgiveness part and that. But some of the things.
Yeah. Kingdom dogs. Yeah.
Kingdom dogs. Prayerful. Yeah. Evangelistic.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
I trained helper dogs.
That's true. Yes.
Servant dogs.
Servant dogs. It's true. Yeah. That's true.
I brought them a couple times.
Okay, so do you get the idea? What I want to do is not so much from my goal for you over these 6 months is not so much to give you these little snippets of tools and actions to take. Those are valuable, but they're only valuable if you know why they're valuable and how you can extrapolate from that and think principle, because the principle will bring 15 different ways in your mind of how to do that.
Yeah.
What is it? Teach a man to
Give a man a fish.
Give a man
he'll
a
eat
fish
for
a day.
Teach a man a fish, he'll eat for life.
There you go. So give a parent a technique and they got through an incident. Give a parent a philosophy and they've got techniques for a lifetime, if you want to call it techniques, or they've got approaches that you've got, your way to go forward.
So can I just clarify the sort of pattern that I think I heard you say in terms of, all right, so we understand, starting with the godly traits, the traits that we want to instill, and knowing the ones, that are highlighted by the counterpoint, the negative one that we observe. So we can, so start with the negative, back it up to, okay,
The
this
positive.
is the positive, this is what we want to instill. Okay, so then we think, okay, great, we've got a habit of perseverance.
Yeah.
And so that's, that manifests as like stick to a task until it's finished. And then I wrote down sort of like 3 steps. One is like preparing them for success. So, all right, you kind of, you're about to do this thing. We know we always finish what we start, right? Okay, even if we get tired, okay. So you have that little conversation. That's like prepare for success, step 1. Step 2 is like right size the task. So, pick something that's the appropriate amount of time or challenge level, and so that they leave like positive and smiling and laughing, whatever. And then I think the third part, which I don't have as clear, is like, is there like a reinforce the message or something, like kind of a way to tie it up?
Okay, that's a good thing to bring up. So I just finished a really good book. It was written, it's not a new book, it's maybe 18 years old or something, called Great Expectations. And there's so much good stuff in there. There's things that I thought, I got my big X through there, but there's just a lot of good stuff. And then I also read a book that had on rewards and reinforcement. So let me just speak to the business of the, I don't know if you meant by tying it all together, if you were looking for a positive way, reinforcement.
Yeah, is there
At the
any way
end-
to conclude it, or is it just like, oh, okay, you finished cutting the potato, hop down. Thanks for your help.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
All right. That's pretty much it,
Okay.
is what I would say. Because if you get into the, parents do super praise. We talked about this, right? Parents do super praise of children. It's just our habit. We're so love them and they're so cute and we're so pulling for them to do the right things at the right time. And so it's us, wow, that was great. You go, honey, he just like put a fork on the table. You know, so it's like the kids feel that they'll act like they're drawing it, but now you're doing it because you're trying to build self-esteem and you're trying to give them positive reinforcement. Like if you put the fork on there once, if I really go gaga over this, you'll put the fork on there twice. You know, you'll want to do it tomorrow night, right? And it's a total backfire. Every study that I've been able to read and look at says the business of looking to give all that positive reinforcement actually gets a child off of their internal deep satisfaction of accomplishment and on to reward seeking. This is one of the main positive aspects of an Ambleside education and Charlotte Mason's philosophy of education. She knows that a child is born a person. The person is hungering for competence. And in that competence itself is the deep reward God has built into the soul of an individual to keep them moving forward to greater competence. It is a self-satisfying, self-rewarding internal mechanism God has in the heart of a child. If you start distracting them from that and substituting artificial rewards, you'll addict them to artificial rewards. You'll take them out of their God-given strong drive for competence and wean them over, or what's the word? I'll transfer them over onto going, gotta have a sticker on the chart because I went pee in the toilet, gotta have a something, right? So we actually inadvertently start doing these tacky, useless, artificial, gotta have it from somebody else because we're building their self-esteem kind of thing. Versus just letting them be satisfied with a job well done. They know they did a job well done, or you can just say to them, wow, that was a job well done. You feel good about doing that job? You should, that was a job well done, Or you state, what I noticed? And you don't even say it at the time. So you're working on your perseverance, right? And they stay with the task and you're tucking them in at night and you're kind of telling their story and you're laughing and you're talking a little bit and snuggling up and you go, you know what? I just wanted to tell you, I just thought about this. I noticed that when you were chopping that potato, you looked like you were getting a little tired. Like it was kind of a big potato. But I noticed that you stuck to it and you finished it. High five, dude. That's called perseverance. Say that word, perseverance. They love to say big words. Perseverance, right? Right? And that's it. You don't even give it at the time, right? But so what you're cultivating, your principle is what you want to cultivate in the child is a completely you know how we talk about a child who can't self-comfort, right? We're talking about that with Joss, right? Saying she can't, goes in her crib and cries because somehow she can't comfort herself. So take that awareness. That's an awareness, a self-comforting, a self-sense of satisfaction, a self-sense of well-being. They don't need you. You shouldn't addict them to needing everybody else's opinion about what they've done to feel good about it. You've now weakened them in every way. That is a big mountain come up in the middle of their life that you're going to have to get down. So just don't mess it up in the first place. Stay out of the way. Don't put a hindrance, right? So let self-satisfaction be self-satisfaction because it's good and righteous and will serve them well. I don't need my boss to come by and tell me 7 times I'm doing a good job or I'll feel crap about myself, right? I don't need that. Will's daddy time, just a dance. Okay, no, that's yours. Sorry. For those of you listening, that's on her phone. Okay, so I just want to make sure it wasn't somebody saying, come for Will's. Okay. So, anyway, okay, enough said. Any questions about that? How you can work that? Back off the artificial praise.
That's really helpful.
Stay away from tacky rewards. You know,
Well, it's helpful, I think, especially just to disconnect in time, so there's not like a conclusion where, okay, I finish a task and I need to have some kind of external validation, but I love the sort of later on, like, oh, by the way, I noticed this, because they love to be seen, right?
Yes.
They love to,
Yeah.
and you kind of are reinforcing the principle that you taught them at the beginning, which is,
Right.
remember, we finished tasks.
and we always do things. I mean, we all do. I still do it as a grandma, you know, and then you go, there I am again, right? So, but the business of feeling like we should comment on a child's behavior all the time, like they need our comment. They jump over a log. Wow, good job, Brandy, you're jumping over that log. You're so fast. You're so something. You go, wait, what would your life be like if everybody around you was commenting on your behavior? Just treat them like another person, right? Like you would treat any other person. Wouldn't you hate it if you went to work and everywhere you went, some nurse was saying, well, you just put that IV in so great. Or, I like the way you smiled at that person. That was so reinforcing. You go,
I would like it if someone said that. 'Cause I don't have IV skills, so that's
The first 10 times.
yeah. But you know what I'm saying? The idea of somebody just watching you all the time. So
What about when they're asking for your attention, like saying, "Hey, mommy, look what I did." Like,
Yes.
you still praise them for that.
you can,
You just don't make it like the biggest deal.
you don't make it like a big deal. Yes. Or even just saying, I love to see you having fun. Instead of commenting on let what they're doing satisfy them. You know, they made something great. Even just comment and saying, I bet that felt great to get that done. You know, start reimagining your language so that it's not this thing that makes a child highly self-conscious. So here we have the business of on here, one of those character traits, being talking self-aware, being not so self-consumed, right? Being other-focused. But how can they be other-focused when they stay the center of attention, your attention all the time? So everything they're doing, you're watching. It's very important for children that we all want to watch them. They're so blasted cute, right? But a child who is honestly on our screen all the time, on the big screen of mommy and daddy, and they know, you'll see a child looking over now like, are you watching me? Watching me now? Watching me now? And you're going, yeah, I'm watching you now. I'm watching then. I'm watching that. You know, and you go, that is like robbing the autonomy of a child to just live their life and not be your screen time, right? It's dehumanizing. And yet, we just pass it right by. We don't even think about it. We just, that part of it is really not good for a child's soul, and you end up having to wind your way back and undo the fact. So if you're going to watch them, most of the time, try and do it when they don't see you watching. God, look at you, you're so cute. But then when you notice that they're going to turn around, busy yourself, do something. Otherwise, they live life to be a show. Now what have I put in their soul?
Yeah.
They can't just live life. They're just so, we've actually conditioned them to be absolutely self-conscious. Does she think this is cute? Does she like that? Does he like this? You know, they've lost their ability just to live their life in peace, doing what they want to do.
So is the principle there sort of comment on the intrinsic satisfaction that you're hoping they're having? So like comment on, wow, it looks like you're really having fun doing
Yeah.
that. And sort of name what you hope.
Or was that fun?
Yeah.
You know, you don't
Versus
have to be the one who's
outward
who's
action.
the commenter. You can just go, did you feel good about doing that? You know, or
So you're getting them to focus on their intrinsic
Yeah,
feeling versus.
or you can say, I
Yeah, right.
bet that felt great to get that job done. That was a lot of work.
That's cool.
So not all the time. It's okay to say, that was great. You know, I'm so proud of you, and I love this. You do such a wonderful job. And absolutely. It's just that we are like so overboard. It's every little thing. Good job, buddy. Good job, son. Wow, super, whatever. It does not serve the soul of the child well in the long run. Okay, so we have about 8 minutes here, and any more questions, interaction? I want you to think about the mealtime business, because if you get it around mealtime, if you get the application of the principles I'm trying to give you around one thing, don't make it so broad, like I gotta apply this here, there, and there. Just think about the mealtime. All these characteristic traits, right, that you got, and you're gonna make more, and you're looking and saying, what's the and you're writing down the negatives, and anytime you see there, you've got your trigger, a negative, going, wow, got to jump into the positive, right? I'm not going to let it pass and think it's just a childish thing. I got to make my plan, right? So now I've got my little thing that's intentional parenting going, here's an activity. How can I teach this quality, this trait, that we need to begin dealing with, right? And now focus it on your mealtime. And the reason that I don't say just mealtime, but I say meal prep and meal cleanup, is because the child, your children, should be a part of all of that. And then we're going to extrapolate that into all of life. Competence is your greatest tool for cooperation and growth for your child, playing on their competence. Their flesh might resist you. The human flesh doesn't want the right thing. So you might have some resistance, especially with older children. I don't want to do my chores or whatever. Now you've got to back it up and go, okay, how do I run that through a prism? I don't want to do that. I just do my prism thing. I go, what's involved in that? I don't want to help everybody. Because I may have to roll it back and figure out, why is he not feeling like a part of this family? Why is he not feeling responsible for what happens in this family? How have I bred a sense of autonomy when it should be a sense of community in this child, right? All of a sudden, the prism starts to explain to me, so if I want this to end, I need to whip over here and begin to work on a sense of community versus autonomy. How do I do that? Training, language, environment, the tools that I have. It's a lot of thinking. So pray for good night's sleep. And give yourself, breaks. and all of that. But at the same time, it is a job to be the proxy of God's, Father God, in this child's life. It's a full-time job. So anything you would like to be talking about on the Monday night call? Anything, or the next, anything you want to be bringing up? I'm just kind of some of the things that you guys spoke about of parenting weaknesses and parenting strengths, and then the 3 behaviors with your children and stuff. I'm just trying to kind of keep those in mind and work them in organically as we talk, rather than zero in on each of them. But I want to make sure you get what you want.
I think peacefully receiving no.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Okay.
Probably somewhat universal one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I appreciate.
Yeah. So run that through when we'll talk about it more. But now take what we learned. You're going to take. So he throws a temper tantrum, or he just gets mad, or says no, or scowls, or what's the manifestation of that? He's not peacefully receiving no, right? What's the heart attitude that is being expressed? And you're going to look down that list and you're going to go, so what's in a heart attitude of not peacefully receiving no? And you're going to go, oh, it's this one, it's this one, it's this one, this one, right? When I run it through the prism, wow, destiny breaker is right there. Mom, on duty, right? So now you look over at those positive traits and you begin to say, what's the counter to that? And then how am I going to build that, which is like putting the foundation under the house. If you're always kind of looking at a house where the foundation is crumbling, you're never going to get your results. The house is still going to tilt, right? So you go back down and say, what's involved in the human soul that will not peacefully receive no? And as you, yeah.
Because one of the things Jan's taught us with Ellie is to the training to get her in the right habit forming. So going back and practicing what it would have looked like if it would have happened the right way, or he would have said yes. So after there's a tantrum, let the tantrum work itself out, and then go back to the exact same point that you were, and just say, hey, we're going to practice what we should have done, or how we could have done that in a better way. And so that's really seemed to help Ellie, is actually going through that process of trying it again, and like, that was great. That's how we're going to do it next time. And but then also sometimes prepping her ahead of time for when we know they're going to be in those situations. Hey, we practiced this. We know how to do this. So
let's plan
that's been a great for us.
A training. So I'm so glad you brought that up. So the whole thing of, remember we started talking about the neurology and the rut, right? So if you have a bad rut, a rut that's going in the wrong neurological channel, you've just cut a swath through there where they've done something wrong, the best thing you can do is not let another one go through the wrong way and another one go through the wrong way. But the moment there's been one the wrong way, always get it done the right way. So you're countering that. So however long it takes. So I actually saw Ben do this. I just, because it just quickly comes to my mind. But here was Maddie at church, and he was saying, Maddie, we need to get in the car, right? Now there were some things wrong about this, and you can always be perfect, get it better. But so he's, Maddie, we need to get in the car. And Maddie was kind of running around in the foyer, and then he was distracted. And he was kind of talking. He said, Maddie, you need to go to Mom. We need to get in the car, right? So it was like 3 or 4 times, which was not good, because you're looking for first-time obedience, right? And that first-time obedience, if your children are not obeying the first time, it's because you've taught them not to. So own it. So that was, teaching her not. She didn't have to do it until finally he said the time where she really knew he meant it, right? But what he did was, I think she said something, no, or whatever. And then he actually went to her and he said, okay, so here, let's try this again, right? And then she actually said, oh, okay. So she stood back and he said, Maddie, it's time to get in the car. And she said, okay. And then she left. But he brought her right back to the physical spot where she had blown it, right, for that part of it. So literally, I love that, because you've got the imprinting of, I'm in the exact space with the exact choice to be made, and now I've made the right choice. If she had made that right choice in another room, it wouldn't have not as been as strong a training. You bring them right back to the spot, the physical spot, because your body, soul, and spirit, right? And your body actually begins to imprint, right? It's all connected. So bring them right back to the same spot, and just make sure they leave with the successful experience of doing it the right way.
Do you have quick advice on? I've started to do a little bit of.
That's okay. You go ahead.
But just like try that again. And I think I'm doing it too close to the. Yes. Because then he learns to get.
Try that again is not a good. You don't want to use that. I've heard people say that, but I have never found. You got to really know how to work that one right, because in some ways it's a threat to a child, and it comes right down to, for example, in meals. When I said the business of a child, for example, never saying thank you or please or whatever, but they have trained. Your child has now trained you to be the one who reminds them to say thank you and please. So it's the same way with try that again. Because
they've already.
They have just trained you to give them a second option.
Right. So I'm trying to figure out how to reinforce, how to give them the option of imprint the right behavior.
First, you have to tell them.
Well, she's saying you still lost it, and you can practice it again, but it doesn't change the outcome. That's the difference.
Well, but for example, saying that try that again is a way to, you can use it, but I would use it very little. Because ultimately the child is just getting a second. I know you have to leave, Julie, so you have to throw it. That's okay.
I made a promise.
Yes. Okay. So rip all your pages out. Okay.
I'm not very good with follow through. I wanted to say something real quick about reinforcement, because you were talking about not reinforcing, like, where you get, I don't know, signature and things, but my middle child hasn't slept since he was born. So I said, dude, I'm willing to do anything. I said, I wish you a Snoopy snuggle doll, anything, and he just wanted a Snoopy snuggle, and he did.
Yeah.
since he was
Yeah.
born. And so I was at the mall and I'd forgotten. I walked into my car and I'm like, Snoopy doll. My husband said, you have to bring it home. I was like, where am I going to find a Snoopy doll? Anyways, all that said, Hallmark was amazing. Had a bunch of Snoopies, if you ever need to know. So anyway, I got out of my car. It's that thing about not wanting to get out of my car because I already packed the other kids. I got out of my car, got that Snoopy doll, and Mike changed. He changed because Mommy followed through. So I mean, I value don't always give him the sticker like good job, you did it, but that one thing for him, he saw that Mommy could follow through with a promise she made.
Yeah.
And something that I really struggle with because I forget.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So I
good.
just wanted to share that that reinforced Mommy's follow through.
Yeah.
And he slept 4 or 5 nights in a row after that.
Yeah.
He's going back to not saying he only got sick right after, but there's hope.
Yeah.
So
And you know, the whole thing, you need to know, we all know it, but we need to remind each other, nothing is black and white. And so that's why I want to talk principle and not just the technique, because you can get so legalistic with a technique that you lose the ability to draw from Proverbs 8 that gives you the wisdom, where it says in Proverbs 2, wisdom is going to give you the ability to do every fair and equitable and right thing at the right time, right? So that times are different, kids are different, situations are different, but as a principle, get your principles down so you don't jump the road, you know. Yeah, so good. Thank you for sharing that. Good to have you, Julie. Yeah, yeah.
And I'll try to get connected on the computer.
Good. Yes,
My
yes.
husband fell asleep and then someone woke up throwing up, so I was like, we'll just.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Let's try it, you and I together before the Monday. Okay. That's what I did with Susan. Yeah.
When my husband's not.
Yeah. So,
So it's like partly it's like let the outcome play out in terms of like not getting, you know, whatever, if you forgot to say it or you said it the wrong way, like let that play out in terms of the consequence perhaps, and then at a later point in time allow
You
the
can even,
right
I think,
choice to be
like
made.
you even, like the one you had in your example was like, okay, you forgot to say please for dessert or whatever, right? And so it's like, okay, well, we're gonna have to, you know, skip dessert for tonight because we didn't say please, but you know, we're on track for dessert tomorrow night, right? When we use please, like, why don't we practice what that looks like? Like, could you do it that way? So you're still like, you haven't taken the consequence away and told them I'm gonna tell you the second or third time and still get what you want, but you were able to then still practice the right.
now if you're going to practice, I would not practice in the heat of disappointment.
Okay.
That will never serve you well. Having them redo something they've done wrong, like you were talking about, that's a very positive thing.
Okay.
But when you're talking about, now I'm going to train, so I want to have them have a successful meal the next time. So before dinner, you just kind of go, oh, I just thought of something, right? Let's practice this,
Okay.
right? So then you're you come alongside and you become the friend of the child to help them achieve their growth goal. They wouldn't put it in those words, but that's what you're doing. So you're coming alongside and go, I just remembered the business about the please. Let's practice because I know you can do it, right? And then you do it. Somebody, the other parent, or you do it yourself, or it'd probably be better if the other parent did it. Thank God for moms and dads. And then you practice it beforehand, set them up for success. But I wouldn't do it at the time to say, okay, now say please, but you're not getting it now. Until tomorrow, but good thing you practice. And all of a sudden this swirling contention and adversarial thing gets in here. You're not a friend now, you're the...
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Well, it feels like, I guess, a little bit in tension, though, because, like,
Thank you.
one principle feels like the sooner after they do it wrong, you can model doing it right, the better, because you leave the wrong pattern in there for less time.
Yes.
Like, that feels like a principle.
Exactly.
But then it also feels a little bit in conflict with, but oftentimes there should have been consequences with doing it the wrong way, and therefore if I have to wait to not do it the right way in the pain of the consequence, those feel a little bit competing in terms of how soon I should role play the right one.
They are. So where you have to make the distinction here is, are you training or correcting?
Okay.
So if you're training, your training is going to be your training for success. A correction has to be something where, how do I explain it? Okay, so let's stick to they didn't say please. So for that, if a child, they know they have all the brain cells to know very early on. A 2-year-old can very easily remember to say please and thank you, and because you've trained them to do it. And the way you do it is, honestly, they don't get what they're asking for. Just simply, they just don't get it unless they say please, And so it's just because, the thing is, you don't scowl. You just go, uh-oh, forgot, didn't you? Well, we'll try tomorrow night. And that's it. Sweet, bright-faced, warm, nonplussed about the whole thing. Uh-oh, forgot. And then they'll go, Dad. And then every parent will go, want to try again? Say please. Psh, there they get the ice cream. So what did you do? You just trained them that you're going to tell them to say please, and they're going to get it, and they'll do that until the cows come home. So it's just a very simple thing. That you set a rule, you have expectation that's well within the capability of any 2-year-old or 18-month-old even, if they're at all verbal, right? But let's say 2-year-old, to do that, and you just, there's no question about it. And so that's the last time they'll ever not say please. And it's done. Check that off your list, move on. I mean, I know parents who are dealing with that, just so irritated. Why do I have to keep reminding him? Well, you taught him. Very simple to unteach. Just, say please, you don't get it. But you don't do that as a scolding, like, you didn't say please, and so that's it. It's just a natural consequence that's go, whoops, forgot, but I know you can remember tomorrow night. And then, they don't get it. So go through, in terms of meals, go through that it really was just right off the top of my head, going bam, bam, bam. Here's like 15 things, that would make meal times potentially, pick and choose out of there, what could help you. But the whole idea of not putting food on the table, huge step forward to having a good meal, because they're not looking at the bread. They'll always want the bread. They'll always want the rice. They'll always want the mashed potatoes, because we know it's addicting, right? This is Ian gets it, yeah. So anyway, go through that list and begin to say, okay, do any of those now trigger those character traits? So let me pray for you. Father, thank you for this time, and I pray, Lord, that, again, wisdom, knowledge, understanding, discernment, sensitive, obedient heart to each of these parents, Lord. I pray, Father, for the joy of parenting to come alive, Lord, because inside of these parents, you have made this insatiable obsession for competence. And it feels good when you do the right thing at the right time with that child. And so, Lord, I just thank you for giving them the joy of parenting. You give us the responsibility and the weight of being your proxy. But you also give us your joy. You said, I came that your joy may be full, and my joy is abundant, you said. And so, Lord, I thank you there is joyful parenting, great, deep satisfaction, along with the learning curve that involves frustration and a requirement for diligence and stretching and all of those things. So thank you, Lord. Holy Spirit, be their teacher, be their trainer, call to mind what they need at any given moment. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay.